The transport shuttle's engines hummed with a frequency that made Elsa's scales vibrate uncomfortably. She pressed her clawed hand against the viewport, watching the rust-colored surface of Mars grow larger as they descended toward Olympus settlement. Her reflection stared back at her, golden eyes with vertical pupils, iridescent scales that shifted from emerald to sapphire depending on the light, and the distinctive curved horns that marked her as Dracari. The intermediary's words still echoed in her mind. Genetic compatibility confirmed. Pheromone profiles suggest 87% attraction probability. Financial transaction approved. She was commodity 2847 in the Interstellar Marriage Database, reduced to biological markers and economic value. The Dracari homeworld of Paraxis had been dying for 3 generations, its binary suns expanding into red giants ahead of all stellar models' predictions. Her people had 2 choices, exodus or extinction. Most chose the former, scattering across human colonies as laborers, technicians, or in her case, contractual spouses. The shuttle touched down with a pneumatic hiss. Elsa gathered her single alloy case containing everything she owned. 3 environmental suits calibrated for her physiology, her grandmother's fusion core necklace, and her engineering certifications from the Paraxis Technical Institute. Not that anyone here would care about those. Marcus Trent stood waiting in the arrival bay, his biosignature matching the profile she'd been sent. Human, 42 standard years, former Earth Defense Force pilot. He'd paid 17,000 credits for her contract. The datapad in his hand showed her specifications: height, mass, scale density, reproductive compatibility projections. His eyes widened when he saw her descend the boarding ramp, not with wonder, with disappointment. "You're bigger than the hollows showed," Marcus said, his tone flat. Elsa knew what he meant. Her people averaged 2.1 meters tall with muscular builds adapted for Paraxis's 1.4 g gravity. The holographic avatar in the database had been digitally compressed, making her appear more delicate, more aligned with human aesthetic preferences. "Genetic specifications were provided in the contract," Elsa replied, keeping her voice steady despite the humiliation burning in her chest. "My dimensions are within standard Dracari parameters." Marcus circled her slowly like a buyer inspecting defective machinery. "The wings are bigger too, the tail, all of it." He shook his head. "I wanted a companion, not a bodyguard." "The contract is legally binding," Elsa said, adding how desperate she sounded. "I've traveled 3 light years. There's a 72-hour evaluation clause." Marcus pulled up the contract on his datapad, highlighting Section 7, Subsection D. Either party can dissolve the arrangement if physical specifications deviate more than 15% from database representation. I'm invoking it. The words hit her harder than Paraxis's gravity ever had. Elsa's claws dug into her palms. "Where am I supposed to go?" Marcus shrugged, already walking away. "There's a Dracari quarter in the lower habitat rings. Try your luck there. Your return passage will be refunded in 72 hours. Return to what? Paraxis had 6 months before the stellar expansion made the planet uninhabitable. Her family had used their entire savings to pay the database registration fees. Elsa stood alone in the arrival bay, her case clutched in trembling hands, as Mars's thin atmosphere whistled through the settlement's ventilation systems. The lower habitat rings of Olympus settlement were a maze of repurposed mining tunnels and jury-rigged life support systems. Elsa found a boarding house that accepted refugees, a generous term for the desperate. 23 credits bought her a sleeping pod barely large enough for her frame and 1 meal of protein paste per day. She spent her days in the settlement's public network terminal, searching for work. Her engineering credentials might as well have been written in dead languages. Every application required human-certified equivalency testing, another 5,000 credits she didn't have. On the 4th day, she noticed a posting on the Colonial Labor Board. Reactor technician needed. Geothermal plant 7, subsurface level. Drakari candidates preferred due to heat tolerance. The interview was conducted by a human supervisor named Chen who barely looked at her, just scanned her certifications and pointed toward the elevator. Level 7, 12-hour shifts. Radiation exposure within legal limits. Barely. Pay is 800 credits per month. It was exploitation. It was also survival. The geothermal plant tapped into Mars's residual core heat, converting thermal energy into electricity for the settlement above. The ambient temperature in the reactor chamber hovered at 68 degrees Celsius, lethal for unprotected humans, merely uncomfortable for Drakari. Elsa worked alongside 3 others of her kind, maintaining the plasma conduits and monitoring the fusion catalyzers. The work was grueling, but it was familiar. She understood the mathematics of energy conversion, the delicate balance of magnetic containment fields. On her 3rd week, she noticed an anomaly in reactor core B's neutron flux readings. Fluctuations of 0.003% every 47 seconds, barely detectable but present. "It's within tolerance," her supervisor said when she reported it. "Don't waste my time with paranoia." But Elsa had studied reactor theory under Professor Thane on Paraxis, who'd lost half her students in a containment failure caused by exactly this kind of within-tolerance drift. She began running her own calculations during her off hours, mapping the harmonic frequency of the fluctuations against the magnetic field geometry. The pattern was clear: resonance cascade. In 6 weeks, maybe 7, the fluctuations would synchronize with the containment field's natural frequency. The magnetic bottle would collapse, the plasma would breach. 300 workers would die in the initial explosion. The settlement above would lose 40% of its power grid. She filed a formal report with engineering department, complete with her mathematical models and predictive algorithms. It was rejected. Unverified credentials from non-human institution. Recommendation denied. Elsa stared at the rejection notice, her hands shaking. She could walk away, keep her head down, collect her meager salary, and hope she wasn't on shift when the cascade occurred. Or she could find someone who would listen. Kiva and Marx lived in a small dome on the settlement's eastern perimeter, where the red Martian dust created patterns against the transparent aluminum walls. Elsa had heard about him from the other Drakari workers, a human veteran who'd actually fought alongside their people during the Centauri Rebellion, who treated non-humans like actual sentient beings. He answered the door in a worn thermal shirt, his left arm obviously prosthetic, high-grade military issue, probably neural-linked. His dark skin bore the kind of scars you earned in boarding actions and zero-G combat. When he saw her standing there, he didn't flinch. "Help you?" he asked simply. "My name is Elsa. I'm an engineer at Geothermal Plant 7. I need to speak with someone in settlement administration, but I can't get past the bureaucratic filters. I was told you might, that you help people." Kevin studied her for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in, tell me what's going on." His dome was sparse but comfortable, furniture sized for humans, but arranged with enough space for larger frames. Books on actual paper filled one wall. A photo of a mixed-species military unit hung above his desk. Elsa explained everything: the neutron flux readings, the resonance calculations, the rejected reports. She showed him her data on a borrowed datapad, walking him through the mathematics. Kevin listened without interrupting, his eyes sharp and focused. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Your credentials aren't recognized here," he said. "I know, but the physics doesn't care about." "I believe you," Kevin interrupted gently. "I'm just statting the obstacle. Give me a moment." He pulled up his own terminal, his prosthetic fingers moving with practiced efficiency across the haptic interface. "I still have some clearances from my EDF days. Let me run your data through a military-grade analysis algorithm. If the math holds, it'll generate an automatic alert to the Settlement Safety Board. 10 minutes later, the terminal chimed. Kevin expression darkened as he read the results. "Your calculations are conservative," he said quietly. "The military algorithm puts catastrophic failure at 4 weeks, not 6. Confidence interval of 94%. He immediately submitted an emergency engineering review request, tagging it with his military credentials and threat assessment codes. Within an hour, Elsa's datapad buzzed with a priority message. "Report to Settlement Engineering Headquarters immediately. Bring all supporting data." The next 72 hours were a blur of presentations, simulations, and increasingly frantic activity. The settlement's chief engineer, a woman named Rodriguez who'd initially been skeptical, ran Elsa's numbers through 3 independent verification systems. All confirmed the cascade scenario. Geothermal Plant 7 was shut down for emergency maintenance. Elsa found herself leading a team of 12 human and Drakari engineers, redesigning the magnetic containment geometry to eliminate the resonant frequency. The work required someone who could endure the reactor chamber's heat for extended periods while making precise adjustments to the field generators. Someone exactly like her. When it was over, when the reactor came back online with stable flux readings and properly dampened harmonics, Rodriguez offered Elsa a formal position as a senior reactor engineer. Salary, 4,200 credits per month. Full human equivalent credential certification sponsored by the settlement. "You saved 300 lives," Rodriguez said. "That counts more than any certificate." Elsa stood in her new office, actual office, with a window overlooking the Martian sunset, and felt the weight of the past months finally lift. She found Kevin at a small cafe in the middle habitat ring, the kind of place that served real coffee imported from Earth at astronomical prices. "Thank you," Elsa said, sliding into the seat across from him, "for believing me, for helping me." Kevin shrugged, but there was warmth in his eyes. "You did the hard part. I just opened a door." They talked for hours. Kevin told her about his years in the EDF, fighting alongside Drakari shock troops during humanity's expansion conflicts. How he'd learned that courage and intelligence had nothing to do with which planet you were born on. Elsa told him about Paraxis, about the binary suns that had nurtured her civilization for 10,000 years now, becoming their executioners. About her grandmother's fusion core necklace, a piece of technology so elegant it made human engineering look primitive. "Show me," Kevin asked. Elsa pulled it from beneath her collar. The small crystalline sphere pulsed with contained plasma, locked in perfect magnetic equilibrium. A miniature star, stable for centuries. "That's beautiful," Kevin said softly, "and terrifying, the energy density in something that small." "We learn to live with power," Elsa said. "Maybe that's why your people fear us. We're too different, too dangerous." "Some people fear what they don't understand," Kevin agreed. "Others see strength and admire it." He met her eyes. "Marcus Trent is a fool. You're not too anything. You're exactly what you should be." Something warm unfurled in Elsa's chest, different from the heat of the reactor chambers. Something like hope. "I have steady work now," she said carefully. "Enough income to sponsor immigration papers for my family, to help them escape Paraxis before the end." "That's good," Kevin said. "Family matters." "I also have." Elsa hesitated, unused to being bold about anything except engineering. "I have time for other things, if you'd like to continue these conversations." Kevin smiled, and it transformed his scarred face. "I'd like that very much." Mars's twin moons rose over Olympus settlement, casting double shadows across the red landscape. Somewhere below, in the geothermal plants, reactors hummed with carefully balanced power. Above, in the habitat rings, beings from a dozen worlds built lives together. And in a small cafe, A Drakari engineer and a human veteran talked late into the night, discovering that worth couldn't be measured in credits or contracts, only in the courage to see each other clearly. Elsa was no longer commodity, 2847. She was simply Elsa, and that was enough. End